Welcome to Ferdinand tutorials. In this video, we're going to be looking at the important biochemistry multiple choice question. And in the first question, we say that the sugar molecule in a nucleotide is we have option pentose, hexose, tetrose, and triose. Now begin to see that when we are talking about all these sugars, triose is a 3-carbon sugar, tetrose is a 4-carbon sugar, hexose is a 6-carbon sugar, pentose is a 5-carbon sugar. And sugars found in nucleotide are usually ribose and deoxyribose. Ribose and deoxyribose are 5-carbon sugar, which is pentose. So sugars found here, the answer is what? Pentose sugars. Now, the second question says amino acids are joined by, is it peptide bond, hydrogen bond, ionic bond, or glycosidic bond? So the answer is not ionic bond, it's not hydrogen bond. And glycosidic bond, we're looking at, the bond that holds two different monosaccharides together. That's the bond we call what? Glycosidic bond. Like when we have glucose plus glucose, the bond that holds the two of them together, we call it what? Glycosidic bond. And then in peptide bond, we're looking at bond that is formed, when we have two different amino acids, joined together, like when you have alanine and glycine, we are going to form what? A peptide. And the bond that holds these two amino acids together is called what? A peptide bond. So the answer here is peptide bond. Now to the next question, I say which among the following is not a disaccharide? When we begin to look at disaccharide, we are saying that they are when monosaccharides come together. When we have two monosaccharides together that are joined together, we call it what? Disaccharide. Now in disaccharide, lactose is a disaccharide when we have glucose plus galactose. Maltose is a disaccharide when we have glucose plus glucose. Sucrose is a disaccharide when we have glucose plus fructose. And the maltotriose is not a disaccharide. We are having glucose plus glucose plus glucose. It's called what? An oligosaccharide. So the right answer here is what? Maltotriose, because it's not a disaccharide but an oligosaccharide. Now the next question, it says the highest phospholipid content is found in, they give us option chylomicron, VLDL, LDL, HDL. Now when we're talking about VLDL, we're looking at very low density lipoproteins. LDL is low density lipoproteins. HDL is high density lipoproteins. And highest phospholipid content is usually found in what? In high density lipoproteins. Now the next question is how many types of enzyme regulation mechanisms occurs in the cells? Now it is not 2, it is not 3, but it's 5. Now the 5 of them, we have feedback inhibition, the first one. We have reverse covalent modification of enzyme. We have proteolytic activation of the enzyme. We have feedback regulation and regulation of what? Isoenzymes. So those are the what? Enzyme regulation mechanisms that occurs in the cells. So there are 5 of them. Now the next question, it says which of the following is the first B vitamin discovered in 1897? Now a function that is essential in amino acid and carbohydrate metabolism and is also active in energy production reaction. So the answer is not biotin. Biotin is vitamin B7. Answer is not riboflavin. Riboflavin is vitamin B2. Are we together? Now the answer is thiamine. Thiamine is vitamin B1. Pantothenic acid is not also the answer because it's vitamin B5. Are we together? So the first vitamin B1. Are we together? The first B vitamin discovered. Of course, you can say that's why it's called vitamin B1. You are not wrong too. So the next question: which of the following elements is not a micronutrient in plants? When we're talking about micronutrients, we're saying that there are those nutrients that are required by plants in smaller amount or in smaller quantity. We're looking at nutrients like iron. We're looking at nutrients like manganese. We're looking at nutrients like copper. They are all micronutrients. Now, if we're looking at macronutrients, they are those nutrients that are required by plants in larger amount or in larger quantity. Example, we're looking at magnesium. Are we together? So magnesium is a macronutrient, not a micronutrient. So the option or the best option here is what? Magnesium. Now, what is the composition of a nucleotide? They give us options here: base plus a phosphate, a base plus a sugar, sugar plus a phosphate, a base plus a sugar plus a phosphate. When we're talking about nucleotide, we are saying that for a nucleotide to be formed, we must have the combination of 3 things. We are having a base, a sugar, and a phosphate acid moiety. Are we together? Now, when we're talking about nucleoside, a nucleoside is only when a base plus a sugar comes together. They form what? A nucleoside. So for a nucleotide to be formed, nucleotide like maybe ATP, ADP, AMP, GMP. Do you understand? ATP is adenosine triphosphate, AMP is adenosine monophosphate, GMP is guanidine monophosphate. So for a nucleotide to be formed, we must have a base plus a sugar plus a phosphate. And in the sugar, I told you that we have what we call ribose and deoxyribose. Are we together? Now for a nucleoside, we are having a base plus a sugar. So the composition of nucleotide here, of course, you know the answer already. The option D, a base, a sugar, and what? A phosphate. Now, amino acid has dash. Now, when we're talking about amino acid, we are saying that it must have what we call an amino group and an acidic group. Now, for here, now we begin to say they give option carboxyl group only. No, that's not amino acid. Amino group only. No, that's not amino acid. If it's amino group only, it would have been an amine. Are we together? Now, both amino group and keto group. No, the option here is amino group and carboxyl group. That's what makes it an amino acid, amine and an acid. Amino and what? And an acid. Now, which of the following is the simplest form of carbohydrate? Now, I want to say something. When we're talking about carbohydrate, we have what we call the aldose sugars and the keto sugars. Now, the aldose sugars are actually sugars that contains aldehyde functional group, CHO. Example is glucose, we have galactose, they are all what? Aldose sugars. And when we're talking about keto sugars are sugars that contains the ketone functional group. Example is the fructose. Are we together? So the option here is aldehyde and ketone group. There is no sugar with alcohol and carboxyl groups, hydroxy and hydrogen group, or carboxyl groups. No. We only have sugar simple form that what? Aldehyde and what? Ketone groups. And we call them aldose and what? Ketosis. Now the number of carbon atom in cholesterol is, of course, when you look at the option, we begin to say that cholesterol is what? 627H46O. That's the molecular formula for what? Cholesterol. So here the correct option is what? 27 carbon atom. You know, cholesterol has what? A phenanthrene ring. You understand? So we have what? 27 carbon atoms. Now, what information does a Lange-Weber plot provide that a typical Michaelis-Menten plot does not? When we are talking about Lange-Weber plot, Lange-Weber plot is actually the inverse of Michaelis-Menten. And just for you to know, if you've not watched my video on Michaelis-Menten equation, how I derived that equation, I will link the video in the description. So click and watch it. There are a lot of things for you to learn. Now, in Michaelis-Menten, equation of plot, we begin to consider the V, the Michaelis-Menten constant, which is the Km, the maximum what? V, which is V max. Now, in Lange-Weber plot is the inverse. We are also considering the same thing. So, when we're talking about information, that a Lange-Weber plot provides a typical Michaelis-Menten plot does not. The option here is what? None of the above. Because every other thing here, both of them provide that information. Now, which of the following is the most essential nutrient for a woman during her initial stages of pregnancy to prevent birth defects? Now, we begin to consider folic acid. And if you have friends with, pharmacists, we begin to see that that's what they call routine drugs. Now, routine drugs are made up of B vitamins, especially folic acid. They give it to, pregnant women to, prevent their birth defect. So the option here is vitamin B9, which is what? Folic acid. Okay. Now, identify the purine base of nucleic acid in the following. Now, when we're talking about nucleic acid, remember we have what we call DNA and RNA. And we have what we call the nucleobases or the bases. Now, in those bases, there are two bases. The two bases are the purine base and the pyrimidine base. We used to remember purine base easily. You notice with the acronym AG. AG simply means adenine guanine. For you to remember pyrimidine base easily, we call it CUT, C-U-T. C stands for cytosine, U stands for uracil, T stands for what? Thiamine. So now when we begin to look at the purine base, just from what I said purine base AG, adenine guanine. Begin to see that the purine base here is what? Adenine, and not C-U-T. Acidic amino acids include. Now there are two essential acidic amino acids. We have the aspartic acid and the glutamic acid. Another name for aspartic acid is aspartate. Another name for glutamic acid is what? Glutamate. So if you look at the option, you need to see that the answer here is option D. Aspartate and what? Glutamate. That's the correct answer. Now the major storage form of lipid is not esterified cholesterol, it's not glycerophospholipid, it's not sphingolipid. The answer here is what? Triglyceride. That's the major storage form of lipid. Now, number 17 question, we say the following is not included in the classes of enzyme. Now, when we begin to talk about the classes of enzyme, we have 6 classifications of enzyme. You can denote them with the acronym OTH, RIL. O, oxidoreductases, T, transferases, H, hydrolysis, L, lyases, I, isoberases, the second L, ligases. Now, when you look at the stuff that I mentioned, you begin to see that there is nothing like amylases in any of them. Amylases is not a class of enzyme. It's an example of a hydrolysis enzyme. Amylasis is a part of what? The digestive enzymes. Are we together? And it's an example of what? Hydrolysis class of enzyme. Now, number 18, you see, which is the leading cause of blindness in the children worldwide? Now, the leading cause of blindness in children worldwide is not color blindness, neither is it cataract, but is what? Vitamin A deficiency. If you've not watched my video on biochemistry of vision, I will also link the video in the description. I'm making it 2 videos now. I will link it in the description. Watch it. You see how important vitamin A is, in helping individuals to see. So that is that. Thank you for watching this video. Please do wait to subscribe if you've not subscribed to this channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.